Imagine a moment in history so monumental, so iconic, that it defined an entire generation. July 20th, 1969, the day humanity allegedly set foot on the moon. The world watched in awe as Neil Armstrong took that giant leap for mankind. But what if I told you that not everything is as it seems? What if the images, the broadcasts, and the stories we've been told for decades are hiding something much darker? At first glance, questioning the moon landing might seem ridiculous. After all, why would they lie? But once you start peeling back the layers, things begin to get strange. Consider this: at the height of the Cold War, the United States was in a desperate race against the Soviet Union. Losing was not an option. And when President John F. Kennedy promised to put a man on the moon before the end of the 1960s, the pressure was immense. Failure would mean global humiliation. And in a game of political dominance, appearances can mean everything. Now, let's talk about the anomalies, the little details that don't quite add up. First, there's the flag. In the official footage, the American flag appears to wave as if caught in a breeze. But there is no atmosphere on the moon. No air. So, how is it possible for the flag to ripple like that? NASA's explanation: they claim the flag had a metal rod to keep it extended, and the movement was caused by astronauts twisting the pole. Convenient, right? But some experts argue that the motion looks more like wind, something you wouldn't expect in a vacuum, and then there's the lighting. If the sun is the only light source on the moon, why do the shadows in the photos point in multiple directions? Natural lighting should create parallel shadows, but many of the Apollo images show shadows converging at odd angles, just like you would expect if there were additional light sources. It's almost as if these images were shot on a soundstage, under controlled conditions. And here's something even more bizarre: some rocks in the Apollo photos are marked with letters, like movie props. Why would naturally occurring moon rocks need labels? Still think it sounds far-fetched. Consider this: during the 1960s, Hollywood had the technology to create incredibly convincing space scenes. Director Stanley Kubrick's groundbreaking film, 2001, A Space Odyssey, premiered in 1968, a year before the moon landing. Many conspiracy theorists believe Kubrick may have been hired to direct the Apollo footage, using the same advanced techniques he pioneered for his film. And here's where it gets even weirder: after the moon landing, Kubrick became notoriously secretive, avoiding public discussions about his work during that period. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe not. Now, let's talk about the astronauts themselves. When the Apollo 11 crew returned, you'd expect them to be elated. After all, they had just achieved the most incredible feat in human history. But their first public appearance was unsettling. Footage of their press conference shows them looking tense, nervous, even guilty. Some body language experts have suggested that their demeanor is more consistent with people hiding something than with heroes basking in their triumph. And what about the missing tapes? The original high-definition telemetry data, the evidence that could prove once and for all that we landed on the moon, has mysteriously disappeared. NASA claims the tapes were accidentally erased during routine data management. Erased. The most important historical record of human achievement, gone. Critics argue that such a loss is beyond belief. Others speculate that the tapes never existed in the first place because there was nothing real to record. There are even questions about the technology itself. The computer systems used during the Apollo missions were less advanced than a modern smartphone. NASA claims that these rudimentary machines successfully navigated 238,900 miles through the harsh vacuum of space, executed a perfect landing, and returned safely. Yet, despite advancements in technology, we have not sent humans back to the moon since 1972. Why? NASA's official stance is that the costs and risks are too high. But skeptics argue that it's because we never really went in the first place, and recreating the illusion with modern scrutiny would be impossible. And here's a chilling thought: if the moon landing was faked, what else have they lied about? Some researchers believe the deception extends far beyond a single event. They suggest that a staged moon landing was a test, a way to see how easily the public could be manipulated on a grand scale. If they could make us believe we landed on the moon, what other narratives could they control? And once you start questioning the official story, it becomes hard to stop. Of course, not everyone buys into the conspiracy. Mainstream scientists and historians dismiss these claims as wild speculation, pointing to the overwhelming evidence supporting the Apollo missions. They argue that moon rocks brought back from the surface independent tracking of the spacecraft, and the testimonies of thousands of engineers involved in the project all confirm the truth. But here's the thing: who controls that evidence? The government. The same entity that had everything to gain from convincing the world they had won the space race. And let's not forget the whistleblowers. Over the years, several insiders have come forward with unsettling stories. A former NASA contractor claimed that certain moon landing footage was staged. Another whistleblower described extensive security measures to keep the truth hidden, threatening those who asked too many questions. And the most intriguing? A high-ranking official allegedly admitted, off the record, that the Apollo missions were the greatest cover-up of all time. But if the moon landing was staged, where did the astronauts go? Some theories suggest they remained in low Earth orbit while pre-recorded footage aired on television. Others believe the missions were real, but not to the moon. Instead, they claim the astronauts were sent to secret bases for experiments the public could never know about. And the evidence? Satellite images of mysterious structures on the moon's surface hint at installations far beyond what NASA acknowledges. And here's where it gets even more bizarre: some researchers believe the moon itself holds secrets we are not meant to uncover. Strange lights, unexplained radio signals, and even reports of UFO activity around the Apollo missions fuel speculation that extraterrestrial forces might be involved. Could it be that the truth is even bigger than a faked landing? That something, or someone, didn't want humanity to set foot on the moon. And if so, what were they protecting? And here's where it gets even stranger. Several whistleblowers and former insiders have claimed that what we saw on television in 1969 was nothing more than a carefully orchestrated illusion. They suggest that the U.S. government, desperate to beat the Soviet Union in the space race, may have staged the entire moon landing to assert dominance during the height of the Cold War. And while this may sound like pure science fiction, there are clues that are hard to ignore. Take, for example, the infamous missing telemetry data. NASA itself admits that it has lost the original recordings of the moon landing, including the crucial telemetry tapes, data that would have provided undeniable proof of the journey. How could the most important technological achievement in human history simply be misplaced? And why would an organization known for its meticulous documentation allow such critical evidence to disappear? And then there are the photographs. Experts in photography and film have pointed out anomalies in the images from the Apollo missions, things that shouldn't be there. Shadows that appear to be cast in multiple directions, as if lit by artificial studio lights. The infamous sea rock on the lunar surface, which looks suspiciously like a stage prop. Even reflections in the astronauts' visors show strange shapes and structures that some say could be lighting rigs or other filming equipment, but perhaps the most unsettling evidence comes from the astronauts themselves. In the years following the moon landings, many Apollo astronauts have exhibited strange behavior, refusing to speak openly about their experiences, or offering cryptic statements that seem to hint at something being hidden. Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, once claimed he saw an unidentified object following their spacecraft. And Neil Armstrong, a man known for his quiet demeanor, gave a speech years later where he referenced hidden truths and breakthroughs that could be revealed if we could remove one of truth's protective layers, and if the moon landing was staged, who was behind it. Some theorists believe that Stanley Kubrick, the legendary filmmaker behind 2001, A Space Odyssey, was secretly hired by the government to direct the moon landing footage. Kubrick's film was released just a year before the Apollo 11 mission, and its hyper-realistic depiction of space travel raised eyebrows. There are even alleged confessions and cryptic messages hidden in Kubrick's later work, suggesting that he may have left clues to the truth about what really happened, and here's where things take an even darker turn. What if the moon landing wasn't entirely faked, but instead, what the astronauts actually found there was so shocking, so beyond human comprehension, that it had to be hidden from the public? There are whispers that the Apollo missions encountered evidence of extraterrestrial activity, structures, artifacts, and even signs of intelligent life. Some believe the real reason we never returned to the moon is because we were warned not to. That humanity stumbled onto something we weren't meant to see. High-ranking officials and former military personnel have come forward to suggest that the moon is not the barren, lifeless rock we've been told it is. There are rumors of secret bases, both human and otherwise. And documents from classified programs hint at an entire off-world infrastructure, a reality so far removed from what we know, it's almost impossible to grasp. If even a fraction of these claims are true, the implications are staggering. It means that the version of history we've been given is incomplete at best, and a carefully crafted illusion at worst. And if the government could fabricate an event as monumental as the moon landing, what else have they been hiding? What other truths remain locked away, out of reach from the public eye? So the question isn't just whether we went to the moon, it's what we weren't told. What was so dangerous, so transformative, that it had to be buried under layers of secrecy and disinformation? And perhaps the most chilling question of all, if they could lie about something this big, what else are they lying about right now?